And this takes me to my final theme, which is I want to explore for just a moment the motives of the new atheism. I want to explore them for a moment because if you talk to an atheist and ask, why do you reject God? The answer is usually fairly lofty and a little bit self-serving. To give you an example, years ago somebody asked the philosopher Bertrand Russell, who had published a book, Why I Am Not a Christian, if you die and you find yourself in front of God, what would you say to him? And Russell, putting on his finest British accent, said, I would say to him, Sir, you have failed to provide me with adequate evidence. So this is very much the pose of the modern atheist. The modern atheist fancies himself or herself a kind of apostle of reason, a disciple of the data, following the pathways of reason. And the atheist says, if I don't believe in God, it's just because I don't see the evidence. But this to me is a little bit of an unconvincing account for the following reason. Normally, if you don't believe in something, because there's no evidence for it, you don't bother with it. You just go about your life as if the something in which you don't believe, for which there is no evidence, does not exist. Case in point, I don't believe in unicorns. But you'll notice I haven't actually written any books called The Unicorn Delusion, The End of Unicorns. Unicorns are not great. I don't go around debating advocates of unicorns. I just kind of carry on as if there aren't any unicorns. In an interview he gave some months ago, Hitchens made a very interesting comment. He said, I am not actually an atheist. He said, I am actually an anti-theist. I think what he's trying to say is not that I don't believe in God, I'm against God. I'm against the Christian God. And I want to leave you with my thought about what's going on here, because I think this is an atheism that would have interested a Shakespeare or a Dostoevsky. It's much more, it's deeper than the simple assertion, there's no evidence, so I don't believe. If you think about life, it's kind of unfair. We don't want it to be. We believe in justice and courts and laws, and we say stuff like, what goes around comes around. But it actually isn't true. Because in life, many times the bad guy ends up on top. Sometimes the good guy comes to grief. So, on this earth, there isn't, you might say, final justice. Now, it is the premise of all the great religions of the world that although this is life's story, it's not the end of the story. That there is, you might say, in all religions, the idea of cosmic justice. There's a final accounting at the end of the day. Yeah, what goes around does come around. Consider Hinduism. You've been behaving like a jerk in this life. We'll be seeing you as a cockroach in the next one. Cosmic justice. In Christianity, it's called the Last Judgment, which is the idea that your acts, your behavior, even your thoughts are under unceasing moral examination and scrutiny. Even the stuff you do in private is being observed and noted, perhaps even recorded. It's a little bit of an unnerving thought. I mean, not only for the atheist, even for the Christian. I'm thinking a little bit of Augustine, who postpones his conversion to Christianity again and again, of praying to God. He says, make me chaste, O Lord, but not yet. So here's even Augustine trying to, chafing under this idea of unceasing moral accountability. And what I want to suggest is that the new atheist, the modern atheist, has found a beautiful solution to this problem. How to get out from under the shadow of moral judgment? It's really simple. Abolish the judge. Because if you can get rid of God, then suddenly all his rules and codes and commandments become optional. They're not handed down from the sky. Morality is basically a bunch of stuff that human beings make up as we go along. The new atheism is not only offering to young people the idea of a reason-governed life, I think even more seductive, it's offering something else, the promise of moral liberation. Dostoevsky in the Brothers Karamazov writes, "If God is not, everything is permitted." Now this for Dostoevsky is a warning. If God is not, chaos will come into the world. But for the new atheist, this dictum has become a kind of thrilling liberation. Hey, if God is not, wow, everything is permitted. If God is not, I can live exactly the way I wish. Where does this leave us? I think it leaves us as Christians, recognizing that today we need, in a way, to take a little seriously the new atheism. In fact, if we do, we can find it to be not so much a threat as an opportunity. An opportunity to do what? To sort of go back to first principles and try to discover not only what we believe, but why we believe it. Because if we do that, then we have a confident Christianity that is actually well equipped to face and to inhabit today's secular culture. We can go out and truly be salt and light in the world. At the end of the day, Christ will be the victor. But in the meantime, we are, you might say, ambassadors in the world. And if we're going to communicate our faith, we have to find a language to do that. So I think as Christians, we need almost to become, you might say, bilingual. By which I mean to speak one language, a Christian language in church, but maybe a little bit of a different language in secular society when we are speaking to people who don't share our assumptions. Ultimately, apologetics. I don't like the word so much because it seems like you're apologizing for something, but it's a defense of the faith. It's not a substitute for faith. I see it more this way. In a sense, between us and the cross, there often is all kinds of obstacles, all kinds of overgrown brambles and bushes that block us from seeing the cross. And what apologetics does is nothing more than remove the bushes, clear the underbrush. So ultimately, we come face to face with the cross. It doesn't mean we're going to accept it. But if we reject it, the only reason for doing so should be, I will not. And ultimately, I think here at Wheaton, what could be a better place than to be at the forefront of the new challenges facing Christianity in the 21st century? If we respond to this challenge creatively, serenely, prayerfully, but boldly, I think in the end we will not merely endure, we will also prevail. Thank you very much.